Welcome to another edition of the Raw Deal Roundtable, where we've got a new guest with us tonight. We've got the luscious one up there, Mr.
Hmm.
Luke Lash. We've got Brian, who is still the king of Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
George, who is happily on a break from playing any Raw Deal at all.
Oh, hiatus. Hiatus.
How long's the tuss been?
A few weeks. I think I played one game, but
Oh, it's not bad.
one game.
He's secretly plotting for the next Worlds.
I,
I don't know how you can plot for anything right now with all the spoilers coming out.
uh, not to go too off topic, but I am exam studying, and that is what's consuming my time. Some
Yeah,
license.
as it should be.
Nice. Nice.
When's the exam coming up?
Whenever I want to take it. But
Oh,
so
okay. That's cool.
really there's no pressure, but makes it low and slow. So, but anyway, that's hopefully in the next couple of weeks I'll take it. But yes.
Yeah, you take it when you're ready, man.
Yeah.
It's important for your personal and professional life.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Obviously it goes without saying, but I'm still going to say it anyways.
So we have Luke here, who, like Kevin Courtney, is another one of the big local playgroup tournament organizers. So Luke, how did you get into Raw Deal, and what got you into wanting to run events?
Uh, I got into Raw Deal like most people early on. I remember playing in Premiere, like first set came out. I was already going to a local comic shop, one that George is familiar with, called Command D in Drake at Mass. It's on a main road. It's got murals on the outside of all different superheroes. It's kind of the place that if you're in the area, it's like everybody goes to, everybody knows. They're still open to this day. But I remember first set came out, obviously being such a big wrestling fan growing up as a kid, it immediately brought me in. I think I was playing Pokemon and Overpower at the time, two completely different games. But as soon as I got hold of wrestling, I knew it was going to stick, and I've kind of been playing most of the way through since. After I think it was Armageddon was the last set I played actively as a teenager, and I didn't get back in until 2018. A local shop about an hour from me that I used to go to events when I was younger did like a reunion type thing. They did like a sealed event, and then they did like a classic, constructed. I got waxed in classic, which is no surprise to anybody who's ever played me. But it was cool to like, get back together and the nostalgia of it all. And I've been playing since 2018.
So you
Dove
like
right
to,
into virtual first, like just dove right into virtual 9. I played like the online, virtual 9 release event, split 2 and 2, and here I am doing worse ever since. So.
and you like to do, like I think Kevin does too, like themes and building up in your virtual events, like in your
Yeah,
local printed, face-to-face events.
yeah. I mean, truth be told, I wish that there was a better turnout. It gets kind of tough seeing, 6, 7 people that are the same. There's really no change to the players, but it's to be expected. Like, not everybody can travel or take time out of their day. So I'm very grateful for people that actually, want to get together and want to play in person because, and we'll talk about this in another point, I think that there's something, for lack of a better term, pretty dope about getting together with guys, playing in person, sleeving up and just hanging out for a couple hours, slinging some cardboard. As far as like being a tournament organizer, I had no clue what I was doing the first time. I was way in over my head. I think we had 24 people to a sealed event, and it was the first event I ever ran. And thank God for people like Mark Armitage, Will Alessi that were there that day because I would have drowned, and there would have been a lot of very upset people that day. Um, but since like I just try to keep it thematic because I think it's fun. I think it fits the style of pro wrestling as it is. There's always a theme. There's bad blood and Hell in a Cell and tables, ladders, chairs. Saturday night's main event. Like it fits in my mind, and it also gives people a challenge to either build around or like something fun to build towards. And it keeps things a little bit more fresh than just like, okay, here's every set ever made, every superstar, have fun. Like we also have people of different play abilities and different knowledge in terms of the sets. Like I'm a very average player at best. And then we have like Jake Knight, George Hashem that come and show up, and they play a lot. They're very intelligent with the game. They make good decisions. They're great deck builders. So it's just trying to make sure there's something for everyone and give people a reason to come out.
Let's
Yeah,
go
like
back to the sealed. Let's go back to the sealed event, Luke, because that was really it. That was what started it, and at
Yeah,
least the resurgence, right? So, I feel like that's a pretty good one to talk about. But you spent a lot of time acquiring sealed product, you and Will, and I'd never played in a sealed event before. I just heard there's an event. It's only 40 minutes from my house. All my cousins were and brothers were ready to go. So my brother and three cousins, I think, all ended up going. And
yeah,
we
I
didn't
remember that.
know what we were getting and what we were doing. And
It makes two of us.
it wasn't perfect, right? Sealed was limited. We because can
Yeah,
only get so many decks. And
right. But there were all different superstars. There was no duplicates that day, which I was pretty
right.
happy with.
And the
did you
turnout, 20, was it 24, 29?
24 people. Yeah.
Nice.
and did you have sealed booster packs too for each
Yes,
person?
sir.
Wow.
Yeah, I had
So it's
Rumble,
authentic.
Mania, fully loaded, SummerSlam, and I want to say there was something else in there. But yeah, 24 decks, no duplicates, all sealed packs. We had like Jackson Crockett was part of a team called Team Tape Vest back when I was a teenager, 20 years ago. He came up from DC. George from Eastern New Hampshire, right along the seacoast. We had Mark Armitage come from, the border of New Hampshire, Vermont.
Evan.
In the
Evan was
Kevin Courtney. Yeah, well, that was a different event, but Kevin Courtney and Anson Kessinger came all the way up from fucking, pardon my French, from Richmond, the Seven Cities area, drove all the way up to play in another event that Mark was gracious enough to TO the second time. Evan Jones came out from Albany that time. But that first 24 that you're talking about, George, it was you, it was your cousins. I believe your brother was there. Yeah, that was like the first time I think we had kind of all really met in person and gotten together, and that was a great event. I was very happy with that. It's tough acquiring product. Obviously, as time goes on, it gets more and more difficult, especially post COVID. But I still have a decent stash. It's tucked away in my closet here.
Yeah, so that was pre-COVID, 2018, 2019, right? And
Yeah, it was January of 19.
yeah, and then I think the plan was starting to build up for a 20-year anniversary tournament, and then COVID hit, and so there was a process to acquire sealed product, and everybody was really getting it together. But yeah, that was a great turnout. Will Alessi, who was one of the TOs in helping Luke, he opened up a God pack, and he had Dude Love, but he got Rachazo and Essay,
And we played the rules.
The
Yeah,
depth
was
is
great.
just unbeatable.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. It was cool to see. I like the chaos of Aussie rules, and I know not everybody does, but with such limited product, I feel like whatever, just take it all, cram it all together, may the best man win, or best woman, best person, I should say.
I mean, you're there to have fun, so you might as well do what's the most fun.
Right. You can't please everybody, man,
No.
Can't try.
Lucas put out some pretty good constructed tournaments too. He's, he's talking about the turnout kind of, more in the virtual era, and there's definitely a lot more classic loyal people in the New England region. But
For sure, yeah.
prior to that, Lucas definitely put out some pretty good constructed tournaments, funded his own prize support, and drew people in to come. That's for sure. I think the first big one, we won't talk about the diversity rule issue. We'll forget that happened, Luke. But
yeah, it was still classic. That was the last one.
Classic. It was your first outside of the Seals, your first constructed tournament. It wasn't the program did not do diversity rule appropriately,
No,
but
it did
so the
not.
finals ended up being Heenan versus Heenan, which was my Heenan test versus Slingshot Heenan, Devon Dudley Enforcer, and I ended up winning it. But yeah, that was that one. That one had about 12, 14 people.
Yeah, it was 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we had guys from like Rob Zeta came from the South Shore of Massachusetts. I'm drawing a blank on the other gentleman's name who brought his friend with him.
were the guys in the Acton area? They had the store in the Acton area.
So there was the one in the Gardner area.
Gardner,
That
sorry.
was the owner was back in the day. It switched hands and names a couple times, but the gentleman that I still am friends with from out that way are Chuck Derby. John Brule came to an event that we did. It was the last classic event. He came with Hogan. John's a great guy. Chuck Derby is from that area. I'm going to draw a blank on everybody's names right now.
Andrew
But
Weber, who runs the Raw Deal
Right.
Facebook page, he was
right,
there.
he's the gentleman from the South Shore that I was trying to draw a blank on. He came up with his buddy Dan Hughes. I think it was Dan Hughes.
Yeah.
For that 12 person with Heenan versus Heenan. Yeah, I'm very grateful for people that take the time to come out. It's tough to take 6-7 hours out of a day between travel and play, especially people who are all adults. Families, jobs, responsibilities. It's cool to see that people will still want to get together and do that. And I do my best to make sure it's worth it for everybody, whether it's a little bit of prize support, whether it's getting a big gold belt that happens to go around the shoulder of George Hashem, or whether it's autographs and cool flyers like the promo sheet that George was showing earlier, stuff like that. Just you guys are taking time and gas. The least I can do is try to make it worth it for everyone. Make sure everybody leaves with something if I can.
So I know you're very busy with, real life and stuff right now, but do you have plans to run more eventually?
Yeah, so even if I'm busy with work, I'm in college, girlfriend, gym, the core things. I try to at least plan it out so there's 4 or 5 a year, basically one every couple months. The last one that we had scheduled, we had to kind of cancel last minute just based on people's lives, which obviously is understandable. Like, I don't mind. I have been hosting it at a store called Diversity Gaming in Hooksett, New Hampshire. It's the next town north of Manchester. It's about 30 minutes over the border from Mass. The guy there is great. Opa is what they call him because his last name is Opalowski. But he has it set up that there are 4 separate rooms, and you kind of just pay by the hour for the room, whether you want to play D&D, Magic, Raw Deal, whatever. And it eliminates some of the issue where the stores really aren't making money if they let you play. So I've come into facing the hurdle of finding a place that allows us to play without being an issue. But fortunately, that store, Diversity Gaming in Hooksett, is very open, very inclusive, very welcoming. He's open on Thanksgiving for people in the area that don't have a place to go, and he has catered food that people donate. So it's just a great place to have in a community, especially where so many brick and mortar stores are closing. He's been very good to us, and hopefully I can get back there again. And then one of our play groups, a gentleman by the name of Travis Berrios, I believe it's his uncle and dad, or just uncle, that own a store in Somersworth out near George on the seacoast called Toys from the Attic. And obviously they're very great about having us there. And you pay a fee, store credit, the whole 9, but they're very good to us and allow us the time and space without any much of a hassle. It's not like Raw Deal. It generates revenue for the stores because it's been out of print for so long, kept alive by the great community. So we've been able to solve those hurdles and really give us a home, or at least 2 home bases in the area, just like they have battlegrounds down in Midlothian. But when you show up to the store, not everybody's there. I say that because I was on vacation visiting family and I showed up and nobody was there. Classic story of raw deal ducking, you know.
There's a lot of that around here.
So Brian, what is the in Virginia? Is it a comic shop that you guys play at? Like, how does the structure work there? Do you know the background behind it?
Yeah, so it's a gaming store primarily. They have a major presence for tabletop war games like Warhammer and Age of Sigmar and things like that. They definitely have big Warhammer stuff, but what they do is RTO Kevin checks with the store to see which weekend would be best for us to come out, and he keeps us however many tables we think we're going to need. Usually it's 2 or 3. So yeah, we've got a pretty good relationship with that. My understanding is that was their store back in the day. I don't know that for certain. I never made the trip, but you know, it's a nice little setup. It's in a strip mall. They got a lot of food around, so you're not hungry or anything. And it's off a major road, so it's easy to get to.
It's a very large store in terms of square footage, a lot of
Oh
open
yeah,
space, a lot of product. It's a very busy area, busy main road. I would you say about 20, 25 minutes west of Richmond, if that?
probably about that. Yeah, maybe. If you can just take that street straight to Richmond and back,
Hmm.
Midlothian.
Yeah.
But but
Like
yes,
in our terms, George, it'd be like, what's that, Route 12 that goes through Dover and down into Portsmouth?
Yep.
Yeah, it'd be like that.
Route 4.
Oh,
Yeah.
Route 4, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's a great area, and when I was there, just stopping through, they were very friendly, very nice, very helpful. You can tell that they really care about being a home for people in the area,
yeah, I
which is
agree.
very important.
Yeah, I always try to buy something whenever we go up there because I mean he's hosting us for nothing more or
Right,
less. So I make sure I always save some kind of purchase for out there, even if it's just sleeves.
right,
But
and that's a
I
common purchase that I'll make too, so I understand.
Yeah, it's always nice when you go play an event somewhere to try to buy something, to the store.
yeah, 100%. You got to support local stores, or they'll all be
I
Walmarts.
for all the negatives that he gets, I will say that my cousin Rob Clue, that's probably one of his positives is when we go and he knows and how grateful he is for having a place that'll host us. He'll drop some funds on the store. So when Lorcana was first coming out, he bought a sealed box from Diversity Gaming. He bought a
Hmm.
sealed box from Toys from the Attic, and even though it's probably a little bit more than what he would get online, paid
Right.
to get it online, he would do it to support the store. So, um, to all his flaws, there are also some positive things about him too, and it's supporting the local gaming community. I did try supporting the local gaming community once by buying a WWF Women's Championship for Clue, but unfortunately, the owner decided to sell it and I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it for him. But usually for me, it's also smaller things because I don't partake in any other games or hobbies outside of Raw Deal. So
Right.
um,
It's
and I have
hard to.
more box. I have more sealed boxes of Dragon sleeves behind me than I know what to do with because I buy them to support the store and then I never use them. So
Right, especially now.
yeah,
Yeah,
especially now.
I can relate. I probably have 2 shoeboxes full of just unopened dragon sleeves and another shoebox full of plastics and deck boxes. It's a bad obsession, but it's the same thing you guys are saying. You do that to support. Right next to my 2 hurricane figures and the signed hurricane picture,
Yeah.
which I've gotten the 2 figures from Toys from the Attic, either as spending store credit or buying them. So
Yeah.
I may not necessarily buy Magic or Warhammer or whatever, but much like you guys, give a little back to someone who's given to us.
So it
And I
really
always,
kind of fell off on. So it really, sorry, Luke, what were you gonna say?
no, nothing important. I promise.
Okay. So what really kind of fell off in terms of the scene, the in-person scene here, aside from COVID and Luke not dropping $300 for replica belts to lure people in, but well, we finally making the jump to virtual. Like I said, there was a big classic scene here for a long time, and there are some Baron loyalists, and there are, Mark Armitage, I could say, is one of them. And it's just this is Baron's game, and they don't see it outside of Baron's game. And for a long time, I felt the same way. I won't deny that I was pure classic and not really interested in anything outside of classic. But when a lot of us started to make the jump over to virtual, it started a lot of those players that would come back for nostalgia purposes. They kind of fell off the scene. So not that we were consistently getting 12, 14, 16 people, but it dropped down to a solid 6 to 8 max. I'd say that's about right. And I mean, overall, I agree. It's better. There's more diversity. There's more themes. There's things that can change. But in terms of that full scene, it's unfortunate that we weren't able to get as many people to cross over as we had hoped. But the few that we do have do come. I don't want to say they love it. I think they don't necessarily love it, but they come and play it. And I
It's
think
probably a love-hate relationship.
and it probably has more to do with them hating Jake and myself from showing up because we play more often, and
Right.
there's just things that for me, it's not a rivalry. I don't go there to rival anybody that's playing, but I think that there is a little bit of rivalry on the other side in terms of getting over the hump. But yes, turns out there's generally rules that they're not aware exist in virtual by not reading a shenanigans card properly or whatnot, and then kind of completely derailing their plan. And it's, then you nicely say, well, the reason why it's here is so you can't do that. There's a reason why they don't want you to do that.
Right.
So, but the scene has been pretty consistent, I'd say, at 6 to 7 people tops these days.
Yeah, and I think you're spot on. It's like anything in life. Like, I enjoy golf. I don't play enough to be good at golf, but I enjoy it. If you're not playing the game and you're not spending time like getting familiar with cards and situations and rules, like, they're gonna sneak up on you and blindside you. But if you don't put the time in, you can't really be upset about it. And it's not anybody who's there's fault. It's really more on just the familiarity with playing. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into like undermine the competition or a shoot counter just because I wasn't thinking or I wasn't ready for it.
Everybody's favorite mid-match cards.
Yeah.
Speaking of undermine, hello, Anthony.
That's why I said it.
Hello, gentlemen. Hello.
What's up, Skinny Jean?
I just got done actually playing the game of Raw Deal. I don't know about you folks, but I was playing today.
We're just here to talk.
Aren't you always?
Ouch. Thanks. Thank you. I appreciate that, sir.
Well, had 2 excellent games with Rose as always enjoyable. We had Bill Goldberg versus Trent Seven, and then we just finished up Kurt Angle versus Eve. So 2 enjoyable games.
Your video is freezing up a little bit, Anthony. Just heads up. Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Not caught up.
It's funny. I will say that getting back to what we were just talking about being in person and stuff. My girlfriend Darcy has never seen a picture of George or Anthony. Has never met them in person, but know who they are. So your reputations precede you.
My wife calls George my girlfriend, so it's okay.
Well, I think my girlfriend knows you by Skinny Jean. So
perfect.
Yeah.
It has not happened as much now, but for a long time, my wife would be sitting there and she'd be talking, telling the story. I'm at work all day at the end of the day, and I'll just start laughing, and she's like, what do you want, the Raw Deal? What do you want, the Raw Deal chat with your boyfriends again? Like, what's going on?
We call it nerd chat in my house.
Yeah.
Anytime I
Pretty
look at my phone and laugh, she's like, "Oh, is that George? Is that George again?"
But I think that's a greater point, though, that is important to note based on like either getting together in person or having the community is that we do have a hard time, like as adults, making time for friends in person. So it's great to have an online community that you can banter back and forth about, talk about Seinfeld with, push buttons, stir the pot, sling some cardboard, and at the end of the day, you guys are friends and and making new friends. Like George has gone to New York to hang out in person. Um, Anthony won't get on a plane, or else we would invite him. But it points to a greater thing that Raw Deal, even as far back as Premiere, and we've talked about this a little bit already, is that it is a community. You meet great people, and you have great memories, and you play games. You get competitive, but it should always stay as a positive, positive instance. It should never really resort to anything other than that. And unfortunately, it can. But all in all, I'm grateful for the game that I still enjoy, even if I'm on a bit of a tuss right now.
Hey, you played in the last Worlds. You just play in the next Worlds, and you're all right.
Yeah, I will. I'll find a way to make it time. I have a little bit more time to devote to other things, but I can make a time for World and some time leading up to that to get my ass kicked along the way.
I was gonna say, make time for Worlds, and then tell me 10 more times how much you hate this game.
Yeah, and then I'll tell you 11 more times how much I'm still probably going to play.
I think that's how everyone. I always play a game and I'll be like, I hate this game. This is stupid, but I come back
Like
to
I
it.
said, love-hate relationship,
Oh my goodness, I
like
love
the game of golf.
that's for sure.
Yeah, but I think Anthony said this earlier. It's like you can't complain if you don't play. You have no right to, because if you played more, you'd probably be more familiar with things, and things probably wouldn't come as such a big deal or a big shock. Like, if you're not involved in something, then what right do you have to really be a dingleberry about it?
I mean, you look at Virtual too, and like complaining about Virtual. It's a free game that people are volunteering time to do, and they don't have to do it. I mean,
No, man, not at all.
there's
Yeah.
zero reason to complain. The only thing you can do is be thankful that someone still makes the game interesting because it changes. I mean, look
Right.
at what the dev team has done now. There's so many spoilers. I don't even know what they do besides the spike stuff because that's all I really looked at.
Are there going to be? The question is, when the set finally drops, are there actually going to be any more cards? Because I think there's so many spoilers
Oh.
dropping that I can't. Either the set is massive, or there's just not going to be anything else when the set actually releases.
I think it will
former
be
is
a very
the
large
former.
set. Sorry, B.
Yeah, the former. This is a large set.
Yeah.
With a
I mean,
capital L.
I think the thing about that too, George, is like you think it's going to be the last set, but I really think people like Brian and Hogg and them really enjoy like designing this stuff too. So
Oh yeah.
It's a
I
mental
think it's just going
exercise.
to keep coming. You know,
Yeah.
Oh, I never thought this would be the last set. I was
They
more
just-
saying that when so many spoilers are dropping, that when they release the set, there aren't going to be any more
oh,
surprises because it feels like so many cards. But generally, there always is, and it's just crazy with how big the set, just how big this set is. That's what I was saying.
I always
I
like
think
to.
they're leaving something in the chamber. I think there'll be, probably 2 or 3 superstars that they don't spoil, and some in-deck Arsenal cards or Backlash cards that aren't specific. I
Some nice meta shifting cards too that
think they had to.
push us
Mhm.
away from
Yeah,
gender hindering everyone.
That's kind of
Gretchen
the
Heat.
fun part is when you make those meta shifters, because it's a challenge because you can't push too hard in one direction or you get brokenness, but you don't want to push too lightly and then have to come back and fix it again.
Right.
I guess a great example for me is the breaking barriers for women's wrestling. That's going to change a whole lot of women's builds.
That's going to be crazy.
And
It's just going to be, it's going to be awesome.
it's designed in a way too so you're not giving access to like all the broken stuff as well. Like it still
Yeah.
keeps a little bit of the theme, like Baron designed with women not getting everything, but pushing your decks into different directions and making some of those superstars you can't pack multis. I mean, they could
Yeah,
they could
did
benefit
it.
a lot from them.
they kind of like dipped their toes in it with textbook, right? When you
Mhm.
when you reveal the textbook backstage, you can pack them as if they're not multis. And the last tournament that Joe and I was in, Joe smoked me with Bella Twins, textbook Bella Twins. I was not expecting that whatsoever. That's a great deck.
Yeah, that
I think
deck
it,
would have. If you faced 60 card arsenals, Joe, that deck would have done a lot better.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
If it's all like 80 card arsenals, wow.
It was 80 or 100 card arsenals for you.
isn't that where like a lot of the backstages now are saying you can pack up to X number of copies, or like Bruno San Martino, where you can put them all and then shuffle them in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the first round I faced Bruno, who's an 85 card deck. Second round I faced Andre, who's 100 cards. And the third or fourth round I faced Big Show, who's packing 80 cards now.
All right.
86
Yeah.
cards. Yeah.
That's okay.
In terms of the meta shift, I like how a lot of the design in this is like it's removing from game, it's burying, it's a lot of things that are going to help with the larger arsenals or people who clutch their ringside, and I'm looking forward to a lot of it.
I think you're going to see a lot more technical bear hugs flying
Yeah,
around. A
get
lot
some
more
of those
people
RFGs.
you'll see maybe more Veer Mon in raw decks.
Mm-hmm. Veer's coming.
Veer's coming.
Punish the sponge decks a little bit too.
I'm all for that.
I mean, you got to punish them in a way though too that doesn't completely negate sponge because it's a pretty important archetype, so it's a balancing
Right.
act.
Right. I mean, that's why you see in tournaments, especially too, Mania is so popular because it's something that can stop this. Like, yeah, you can take all the damage in the world and you're not going to pin me.
And Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell is top 8 worlds, at least one Hell in a Cell deck the last 2-3 years, I believe.
I think it's actually
Yeah.
top 4.
Top 4, yeah.
I know Mitch 2 years ago was Hell in a Cell Ripley, and she top 4'd. I think it was someone
Yeah,
else.
Ripley's just an animal.
And Evan was top 8 with Hell in a Cell BFM. I don't know if there's
Right.
another Hell in a Cell.
I
But
believe there were 2. I'd have to look.
it's
Was it Canner Hell in a Cell with the highlight?
Oh, he was Hell in a Cell Jericho too, wasn't he?
Jericho.
The year before. So there was 2 Hell in a Cells the year before top 8.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a hard card to play against if you're not.
You guys wonder why I went Bischoff. No self.
I knew exactly what you were doing when I saw Bischoff. I've had that deck in the back of my mind for years to be like, oh, I wonder what it would be like. Now mine was more technical, it was a back body drop deck, but not anything like yours. But it's the same concept: no cage, no cell. Can't do it unless it's Stephanie or what, Theodore Long, maybe,
And Heyman.
And Heyman. Yeah.
and Heyman. Well, yeah, Heyman.
Yeah, the chances of running into that though are pretty slim.
Right. Well, and it said non-GM, so Sheriff Austin, right? That's another one, Sheriff Austin.
That's somebody I'm surprised didn't get run last year.
So
he's
Tanner had a Sheriff Austin that I think was one of his top choices, and we can save that conversation for when he's on. But it was definitely one of his top choices, and I know the few times that I played it, I didn't know what to do with it. I couldn't figure it out. It's just a great superstar to play as.
A lot of the fun comes in the design. It's like we were talking about when they're building new sets. It's like the energy and the mental exercise and the creativity, the thought process that goes into picking certain superstars and certain archetypes and all those things. It's a game of mental chess, and those who play more often and those who are more creative in that way are going to build things that are a little off the wall and kind of leave you no option.
In
you
Worlds
can't
too,
do
like
X or Z.
Tournaments are so, and me and George talk about this all the time. George is a far better tournament player than I am because his mind goes to how can I be defensive in my pre-match? How can I be disruptive in my build to where I'm just throwing stuff and hoping it sticks and gets a pinfall. So that's why I enjoy playing casual games more than I do tournaments, and that's why I build 5 to 10 decks on a given week and just play them and throw stuff. But the guys that are like so precise in their builds and tournament builds, I'm at just like I'm a league below when it comes to that stuff.
I
mean, it
understand how that is.
it takes an energy level. It's not it's not easy by any means. And generally, if there's a hole, I will know what that hole is. I'd say for this past year Worlds, there was um, the hole I had was Showtime and not going first, and I got exploited on that a couple times, and I wish it didn't. And I wish I went with my original route because I was more worried about other things that didn't end up being a disruptor. But yeah, but at the same time, it's draining. So, but when that happens, I'm just so toast after that I can't even touch it for a
Yeah,
while. Where
there's no difference with my builds. And George has heard this we talk too much, me and George, but um but that's like my build for a casual game is going to be the same as it would be in a tournament. Like I don't put extra like let me think about that, let me think about that, let me think about this, because you can only prepare for so much stuff. I know last year I was just so sick of the sponge decks doing nothing and then hitting a shoot lock up and then sitting on shoot counter and then doing that. So I was really considering going as Vince because I just didn't want to deal with the playing from behind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people just sitting there and wanting to be less fortitude.
yeah, Vince was one of my choices, and it was what did I want to deal with less, the shoot lockups or the stipulations, and I just decided that the stipulations were. You know what? I've said this already. I've shared this before. It was Odor's Chicago Street Fight Vince McMahon deck that made me
That was sick.
decide.
That
Forget
deck is
Stips.
sick.
I'm done with Stips. Get him out of here. Because
That
the way he cycled that to continue to get the lead pipe and keep playing the lead pipe as an action, I
is
said,
disgusting.
not happening. Not
No.
happening.
That Vince is definitely the grossest Vince I've ever seen. Odor's Chicago Street Fight Vince is a powerhouse.
So
And that goes back to what you were talking about the certain players have a certain mind to do things that, you might be here, Anthony, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't think that way. And as much as I try, I have a certain way of building a deck and either it works or it doesn't. Yeah.
Well, and that's what I was gonna say at the last point I'll make, and then I'll stop talking about this. Is it takes every ounce of my being to figure this out and come up with a plan that is going to work for a tournament like that, and that's just a casual Saturday afternoon for Zenda, Oder, Jagger, and Debu.
Mm-hmm.
They can just come up on a whim. So it just shows the level of talent there and just what they can come up with, on a spurt. And Brian, you too, obviously. I would say that I don't know if we've ever actually got matched up in a tournament for me to see the method behind the madness, but I know your mind goes there too on your builds as well.
Yeah.
Speaking
Yeah, I
of those
know.
guys, go ahead.
I was gonna say I know I build decks and I send them to Brian and he's like, "What are you gonna do about this?" I'm like, "I don't know."
That's how my mind works. I'm like, okay, what throws this off?
Throw
Okay,
another move, I guess.
And that's when you have to say, "This is why I sent it to you, Brian. Help me."
Right.
What about this card? It's blue. I can't play that.
Has anybody thought about like holding a raw deal class to teach people how to think or design a little bit differently? Because I know I'd be the first student.
I mean, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. I'm just not sure if there's an audience for it.
Well, you have
Most
at
of us
least
are
part
all
of the Discord who are always asking questions about like strategy and build and what to do with this superstar. Like,
Well, you know who
I,
like those guys that are very good are also very helpful. Like
right.
after a game with Jagger, it's time zone, so I don't get to like play those guys often. But like Oder, Jagger, and Debu too. Debu is I messaged him about Blue Blazer. I said, all right, I want to build Blue Blazer. He's tier 5, like he's got nothing going for him. What do you do? And he's the guy that told me to put in luck of the draw with dynamic flying body press. He said search it out every turn. You get to bury a card, draw a card. You get to free search for it. And I would have never thought about that.
Right.
And
Yeah, neither would I.
and I don't think the deck's lost, except when my computer lagged after a 2-hour game with Bob. But I don't think Blue Blazer has lost cleanly, and it's in big part to just that tech that he was like, hey, this is what I do.
Right.
So yeah, it's cool that they're always. I mean, obviously not tournament stuff, right? Like I
No.
don't, but
You wouldn't
casual
expect it.
stuff. Yeah, casual stuff. You could just message those players that play all the time and have good ins and outs of everything, and they're more than happy to help.
And that goes back to the
If you
sense
need
of
first
community.
blood staples, I'll send you my first blood staples. Don't worry about it.
Well, it goes back
When
to the sense of community. We're all kind of here for the same reason, and a lot of people find that they're here for each other. They know that by helping someone else, it is an intrinsic reward for them, but it also helps that other player like maybe level up or change the way of thinking, and then it gets them more involved. And I love
Yeah.
seeing that, and it's great to hear stories like that.
Yeah, you want people to improve. You want,
Mhm.
even casual games, you want them to be competitive. And I mean, it's one of those repetitive things, but like the guys that have picked up this game, like Rose and Eugene, I always pick on them because I play them often, but like I don't know, they got so good so quick. I could not pick up this game today and fathom what this game is. And
Right.
so for them to be building how they're building, I mean Bruno, right? I mean Rikishi put Bruno out of the tournament there, but I had to take the count out. His
Yeah.
Bruno was unpinned in the current BWO. So, and I mean, what's he been playing? Less than a year?
And the game has such a huge learning curve. It's
Mhm.
Oh
the way
yeah.
the game functions. It's how many sets. It's the number of cards. It's all the steps and everything. Like I couldn't imagine trying to teach someone full raw deal, let alone trying to pick it up myself. Like there's no way. So I mean, major kudos to those guys. And that's just it's wanting to do well. It's wanting to learn. It's taking the time. And if you enjoy something, you'll put more time into it. And then you get out what you put in, like anything else. You start to play better, so you start to have confidence. You start to get excited about it. You want to deck build. You want to spend more time with it. And that goes back to the conversation we had to start with about like, about play groups. If you are active and you're spending the time or you're taking the time, you tend to do better.
Yeah, you have to play more to understand maybe this isn't such a big deal. Like if you only play one deck, like let's pick on Heat, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
meta shifted because Crown Jewel and all these added protections,
Right.
and it's like picking on George because he crutched it hardcore, but he doesn't like to build, right? So he didn't have many decks. But I told him, I'm like, dude, I'm not going to play you again if you're just going to use another Heat deck because
Right.
it's like over and over and over. But so some guys that don't play often, if they don't play often, maybe they play once a month and they
Right.
face a Heat deck every time they play. And that's their only experience of this game for a month at a time. They are going to hate Heat.
Right.
You know what I
And they may
mean?
hate the
Like,
game.
and they're going to hate the game because of that one interaction that they see over and over. But if you play 10 games a week, which is high for a lot of people, but it becomes more like meh, meh, meh. It is what it is. Bad matchup, bad this,
Right.
So
it
then why
doesn't
do you
hit you as
still
hard
complain about? So then why do you still complain about Heat since you play 10 games a week?
because it's just you with Heat every time, jerk.
That's a valid point, though, Anthony. I'm glad you said that because it's true.
Yeah.
You can get a bad taste in your mouth from anything, but it doesn't mean that it defines the whole thing.
Right. I mean, again, I love First Blood and I love Hell in a Cell, right? Because they're quick games. That's why I like Textbook too. Textbook, I feel, will either win or lose quickly. If your opponent has a bad starting hand, you can just steamroll with a Textbook deck.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have zero fortitude maneuvers and you don't have an ability that can search or pick up from ringside, you're kind of dead in the water. So they're quick games either way. But that's just how I like. But I know the stigma with not so much First Blood because, for example, like I just played a game, I didn't win via First Blood, and I think I had my first 8 strikes reversed, and it took me probably 10 turns to get on the board with Kurt Angle, and I was just searching and searching and searching. I ended up searching for a Turn the Tide into a kitchen sink just to get on the board, to grab some some ringside maneuvers, but it took a lot of time to develop. So I don't get the hate for First Blood because it really takes time to hit that. But Hell in a Cell, people don't like it, right? So if I know that I'm playing someone that doesn't play this game often, I'm not going to be a dick and use Hell in a Cell Kane. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just
Mhm.
not going to do it.
I think the stigma from people hating Hell in a Cell is it comes from the you don't like it when you can't do what you want to do type thing. And that's a negative player experience. Like I built this deck to do this. His one card completely defeats everything I'm trying to do. What's the point, you know? Like
100%.
like First Blood, it's not killing your opponent's entire game plan. You know,
No.
it's just something you're trying to do. But Hell in a Cell can utterly destroy everything you're trying to do,
Yep.
and you're
And I
just
get
like,
it.
well,
Yeah, for me, it's like hand disruption. There's nothing worse, in my opinion, than not being able to play cards because you don't have a hand. That's like the worst experience for me. Going back to George's Heenan in Classic, my God, man, test enforcer Heenan, and this guy would ace 20 cards, and he would say, "Is it good?" I said, "You could see my fucking hand, George. Is it good? You tell me, man." I got no cards in my hand. Yes, it's good. Go bury two.
It was a major announcement Heenan with the test enforcer Brian for
Okay.
record. So the ace to search, the ace to shuffle.
Yeah, and it's all about the game.
Yep.
It's all
All
about
about the
Don't
game.
forget that. Don't forget that.
Test Heenan. Absolutely brutal.
with Jimmy Hart.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
I love
But for
I love the non-respondable cards that happen over and over again. It's like I get it, it's a thing, but at some point it's like, all right, you're gonna keep doing that. I mean, I might as well just play with myself, play solitaire.
right, and that's kind of how it was. I feel like
Yeah, I
when
remember.
you don't have a hand, that's when I feel like you're just like, okay, you just sit there like, okay,
yeah,
okay,
that's it's like
okay,
why they turned down Chain because
right,
it's really negative play experience to have nothing in your hand to be able to do anything. At least now with Chain, it's still a really good mechanic, but
Oh, it is.
you have options to be able to still play the game, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Which you
yes,
need. You need options. You need to have either counters or alternative plan Bs or plan Cs. It's like BP was saying earlier. It's like, all right, well, what if this happens? What are you going to do? If you have a deck and one card like Hell in a Cell completely kills the whole deck, maybe it's not the card that's the problem, but it's the fact that you didn't have a counter to something that's going to derail your whole plan. If one card's going to take your whole game plan, your whole idea, and shut it all down, you probably should have planned against that one card if you could.
Yeah,
well,
which
with
I,
Cell, you've got Making Your Escape, which is my like. There's something. At least there's
Right, that's what
something.
I'm saying.
You know.
Mhm.
right, and
Yeah.
I think cards, you know, that's got a time and a place. Like Worlds is like no holds bar.
Right.
Expect all the negative. You need to build for everything, but then you want to play a casual game where you just want to try this deck out and you just run into
Right.
something and you're like, I can't. What's the point of playing? You know, like
Right. Going back to the point of Chain, right? They tamed Chain down. One of the things that I don't understand is you help people still be able to play the game against a chain deck, an aggressive chain deck. But then you have, I'm gonna call out Scotty Too Hottie because it seems like everyone's running around with him right now.
Hmm.
And you reverse one of his maneuvers or a card with two words in the title, and you have to bury two hand cards. So it's essentially chain, and I get it. Like
But
it's
it's
it's in
worse.
a yeah, it's one person. It's not the whole game. So I understand that it might not be causing as many problems, but there's other people like that in this game,
There's a
vaudevillains,
lot.
right? I can't stand playing decks like that. It's like I'm going to punish you for interacting with the game, kind of thing.
Right. It's like, oh, if you reverse it, bury, or like, hey,
So
take a
like,
random card and bury it. It's like, all right, well,
but it's
what's the counter to that? I can't
like Scotty
overturn
Too
two
Hottie's
instead.
card. Why not implement it like the chain trait? Why not when your opponent has four or less cards, they can overturn two?
Right.
And again, it's because it's niche and it's one superstar, so it's not affecting the whole game. But that's one of the things that I'm like, I head scratch when I see that. It's like, all right, we got rid of this, but now we introduce this.
I
Well,
think
isn't
part of
it the toxic attraction where it's like if A, then do this. If B, which is the opposite of A, do this instead. Like, well, either way, I'm doing something negative that I don't have a counter to. Like, I have to bury or I have to remove. Like, there's no out. It's just a constant. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Just like Kevin Owens. If you reverse him hand, you're screwed. If you reverse him Austin, you're screwed. What do I do? Sponge everything.
Who was the virtual superstar that just got spoiled? That it's like reverse and you remove from game.
to-
You don't reverse.
toxic
Then they
attraction.
reverse. Who was it?
Toxic attraction.
No,
It's who
it wasn't toxic, was it?
It might
The most
it might have been
recent?
Mandy Rose, I think.
Mandy
Oh,
Rose.
Mandy Rose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who
Yeah,
who
that's what I'm
plays
talking about.
into toxic attraction? Yeah, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Toxic
I
is overturned to or RFG2, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, you're doing something either way.
Yeah.
And that brings us back to the idea of the wave of spoilers. I love how like it starts and there's like one or two that trickle, and then you get a bunch in one day, and then you'll get another one. It's cool because it kind of builds that, that builds that want, that desire for it, and people react to it, and then there's like the counter. I hope that there's still something left in the tank. I hope that there's going to be some surprises. Whether it's Carmelo Hayes or I don't know. I don't think we've seen Tiffy Time yet. So stuff like that.
Well,
I
what
think-
we haven't seen is the maybe I missed it, but generally the then now forever superstars get like their second round of support, and I think I
Yeah.
saw Billy Graham get something, but I don't think I think there's been some people that haven't seen. We haven't
it's
seen
Sherry.
Sherry
Sensational
Martel,
Sherry.
Right.
So there's been a few there that there might be still something left in the tank. Brian, don't spoil anything today. But
I have no comment.
So one of the things I've noticed too.
Hey, before we move on from this, I swear upon all that is holy, the day that it happens and he finally gets something, I swear upon my life, I don't know if I'll play another superstar. It's been since set 5. Let's pull the trigger. Let's do something. You're giving Jamie Noble some support, and you're giving all these other guys some support. I feel a storm brewing, and when it comes through, it's gonna rock you like a hurricane. Okay, I'll say that. I'll say that point blank right now. I've been patient. I've been nice. It's got to happen. It's got to happen. He needs love.
Okay.
Help a brother out.
We can work with that.
I'm gonna get a message from Brian tomorrow. Be like, what would you do about Hurricane?
I would give him an option so where if his ability doesn't trigger, you have another option, or like help him fight through the large hand sizes, help him get on the board, help him get going. Once he gets going, he's fine, but he has a hard time getting going. And I just feel like you can do the vertebreaker, you can do another move if you want. If 2 backstages, give him something to get him going, another maneuver that like maybe triggers to a finish. If you have XYZ or whatever, just Spinson's V5. Come on, let's go. You got one card. You got Molly Holly.
hey, all right. You don't want to push. You don't want to push too hard.
I will
I know.
say
We've been warned. We've been warned.
That's the most
fair,
I've said. Ever.
Hurricane has a lot of good cards.
Right. Doesn't mean he
Yeah.
can't get some love.
Hey, I'm the guy
mean,
calling for Kurt
so
Angle
does
stuff,
Chris
so I understand.
Jericho, but he gets a new
Oh,
card
God.
every set.
Oh God.
He's got 3 incarnations. 4 incarnations now.
And that's the thing. That's why I'll give credit to like Undertaker getting new cards or Chris Jericho getting new cards. They're people that reinvented themselves over and over and over again. And I'm not saying Hurricane shouldn't get something, but a lot of the times, guys on the dev team will be like, well, they didn't do anything new. There was no character or persona
did.
development. And so I totally get where they're coming from with that.
He's the longest reigning cruiserweight champion of all time.
Well,
And
maybe
he did
that's
that
what his
with a
card
second
should be.
gimmick. Yeah,
Maybe that's what his card should be. Second, yeah.
the longest reigning.
I will say in the past when spoilers have started coming out, I felt like there's been a lot of like negative reactions
Yeah,
or,
I
like
will say that. Yeah,
cringy reactions to these spoilers, and I haven't seen very much of that this time.
no,
It's been a lot of very positive reactions to the spoilers and to the way, some of the changes. It's been really refreshing to see people be like, "Wow, that's really cool," versus like, "Well, that's stupid."
can't wait to play that. That's how I was with L.A. Knight. I'm a
Yeah.
huge fan as it is, and then when he dropped, I'm like, oh, that's right up my wheelhouse. Give me something new to dig into.
I
Yeah.
think I think I think the dev team did a good job after the negative reactions during the V14 spoilers to kind of explain that you're looking at something in a vacuum, and when you're looking at it in a vacuum, it may seem more. And even then, I'm not going to say I didn't believe him. I'm not going to say I didn't believe him, but I guess I didn't. But the because then I saw Bloodline and I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. And then I've never lost to a Bloodline deck.
Right, and
So
I don't see them. Not that I'm playing
No,
actively, but even when I did, I never really saw them.
Bloodline, Judgment Day, decks like that, like they sound good. Sound good doesn't
no,
work.
Judgment Day's good. No, we're not gonna they're not in that group. Judgment
I,
Day's
I mean,
very
I,
good.
I, I built them. I've won with
Well, that's
them,
why
but
they weren't good, but they're very good.
It's almost like sometimes the individual
you know,
members are better than the
I
group.
got I got this notebook here, George, that would show that I'm much better than you at this game.
Oh, you
Partially.
still have the notebook? God,
I'm almost out of pages, man.
that's all right.
I'm
I'll
almost.
Amazon you a new one. I still have your address.
I just have a few more pages left. Pretty sad, actually. This is the notebook that started it all a couple of years ago, and I only
Jeez.
have a couple pages left.
So, based on what we've seen so far, what have you guys' favorite spoiler or
There's too
nuke
much, man.
nuke?
There's
There's so much of it, but has
I
anything like stuck out to you that you're like,
I
this is
have
awesome?
textbook doing set up, and I've said multiple times the issue with textbook is if you don't have a search mechanism,
Getting on the board,
you're
it's
yeah.
it's so
So
hard.
his card that allows you to play your cards that are in your backstage area make him textbook, like he's infinitely better once that card comes out, which I did not think out of all these spoilers coming out that I'd be like, hell yeah, Doink's the first person I want to use, but right now he is.
Uh,
And I think
I
that's part of the fun.
I definitely like the Iron Sheik card a lot more than I initially thought I would. I don't know if anything changed on it. Not to throw him under the bus, but I think Evan gave me an early spoiler on that one, and when I read it, I said, "What do I care about ring psychology neck and ring psychology back?" And now I'm reading it again, and I read what they'll say, and I'm like, "Oh, it's pretty good." Pretty good because then he can play them with all together now, and then um just the for drawing extra heat to actually have a even better chance of getting on the board or getting yourself on the board because it gives you fortitude. I liked it a lot, but I liked Mandy Rose. I don't, that damned if you do, damned if you don't type of ability is
George
intriguing.
doesn't know the difference between Liv Morgan and Mandy Rose in real life, so he is prohibited from playing either of them.
No, Mandy
Oh, there's a
Rose.
big difference.
I know who Mandy
Yeah,
Rose is.
There's two big
yeah,
differences.
yeah. This guy all the time. Which one is that again? I'm like, you
I mean,
sicko.
for
one
a little
one can
while,
wrestle though.
I was just messing with you and Devin on that one, but I knew who they initially they were. I did not know the difference between the two because I wasn't watching wrestling, but um, I very much know who Mandy Rose is and who Liv Morgan is now.
To be fair, I was just going back through the spoilers that are pinned here in the chat, and I completely missed Liv Morgan. Didn't even see it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, that was probably near the end of the semester or when I was taking the external
It
exam.
was
But
more recent. Yeah, I think it
yeah,
was more
I've been in
recent.
school for like 10 years now, man. Like can't keep using the semester
hey
excuse
man,
as
you
a
know how
reason
it
you're not
is, dude.
seeing
Don't give me
something.
that. You know how it is. Yeah, it'll be a little bit more demanding next fall, but it'll be worth it.
So, Brian, any of the stuff that's come out that you were really excited like super excited to show off? Is there any cards, like any spoilers that you were?
Well, I was the reason I spoiled Mystery Wrestler is because I was the key tester there. Like I was the one that picked that up and put the 60 backstage cards in the backstage and ran that through. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. As far as testing goes, I've also enjoyed Bubba Ray. Shockingly, I didn't think I would, but he's solid. And Toxic Attraction. Those were the three that stuck out in my mind, were just like, oh, this is fun. And my Toxic Attraction deck was simple. It's just bash. Breaking barriers, bash moves. Fine. Worked perfectly fine.
Who was your favorite with Mystery Wrestler? What enforcers did you use?
I think I just went for high value. We start BFM all the time. BFM and Cactus.
Okay,
And
nice.
then hit a move. I forget if it was a precision or a blindside or a tech in a bottle, something like that. And then use the ability to switch to probably, depending on the situation, either the game or People's Champ with Dude Love.
Mhm.
And just,
Do you,
it's discard
do you-
3, pick 1 back up.
yeah, I'm assuming because you always have to watch out for reach now, right? Like BFM's, that's why they gave him like May 19th. I don't know if those correlated time wise, but with an enforcer for BFM, you're kind of limited on what you can throw. You really
Yeah.
have to do a zero
Well,
fortitude maneuver.
you
Uh,
can't
Yeah.
you can't May 19th if it's reached, I believe, right? It's only if it's reversed because reach doesn't technically reverse it, right?
Reach
Reach
reverses it.
reverses.
reach
Yeah.
reverses.
If you reach it, he
Brawl
gets
doesn't
Oh,
reverse.
okay. I'm thinking undermine is what
It,
I
Oh,
saw
okay.
happen. Yeah.
precision kick. We're tech in a bottle for precision kick. That's your.
Yes, it was something like that. I might have been
Oh, yeah, you
precision.
could technical precision kick, yeah.
I might have been precision blindside fan favorite if I'm remembering right now. So maybe it was a blindside hook from under tech. And if for some reason I'm up against like Eddie or Edge, I have the beating in the ringside so I can at least have a shot at doing something.
Mhm.
I've talked to Joe about this a couple times. Like, if you need to figure out whether a superstar is good, the precision set is pretty good for getting a good evaluation of how the superstar performs in many cases, because you'll find out if they're behind on their draw step, because after you miss a precision move, you get to draw back cards, and if that's the difference, then okay, they're missing draw. It's
Yeah,
also yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, I would say I built Flair precision. The last time I built Ric Flair just for that, his starting hand size, I wanted to throw precision. I wanted you to reverse it so I could just draw up quickly and get in the game.
Mm-hmm.
How
I did.
many?
Go
How
ahead.
many specifics? How many specifics does the How many Foley specifics does it end up coming out to be when you
It's
for
either 15,
Commissioner
it's
Foley?
either 15 or 16. I'd have to pull up my deck list and look.
It's okay. That's just a ballpark. It's funny.
Yeah.
I didn't read. Not to your surprise, I didn't read it in its entirety. But I see now. It's non-hybrid, non-reversals. Which the hybrid's okay. I mean, well, the reversals, yes, but because not getting have a nice day, feel the love, and bang bang would be insane.
Well, you can still get them all with their ability.
Oh, you just
With
can't put them
Mystery
in your
Wrestler's
backstage.
original ability, can't you just already have those in Arsenal?
No, you can only get one reversal.
One reversal, okay.
One of them, yeah, and it can't. Yeah, and it's not. It doesn't count as an extra.
Yeah.
Well, you
So
can't
you pick one of those three usually.
you can't pack bang bang anyways if you pack the backstage, right? Because
Yep.
it's a
Yep.
throwback.
Correct.
Oh, touche.
Gotta
Yeah.
go have a nice day.
So let's see. My backstage area for my mystery wrestler is 55 cards total.
Holy sh!
Jesus Christ.
So let's
And
see.
all of those get shuffled in. Now I gotta look at that.
No,
back.
not all.
That includes the
There's
enforcers and
enforcers.
everything.
Yeah.
Oh,
You-
okay.
You want every enforcer because of
I was gonna
Commissioner
say.
Foley's thing. But
Right.
let's see. I have in my backstage 10 precisions, 12 cheap pops, and the specifics.
Nice.
So yeah.
I have leaned into Because again, I just like building, and precision is not anything overpowering to where my opponent's like, ugh, I don't want to play against you. But it's just like an easy plug and play set right now. And I
Mhm.
really like precision with NXT because with Morrow. So it doesn't work for everybody, but if you're not locked into SmackDown or Raw, I'm really liking precision NXT stuff. I have APA built that way and they're pretty solid.
I
Okay.
ran into Becky Lynch that way during Worlds,
Oh, Becky
and
is so
I
gross.
didn't
So
realize
gross.
what I was getting into it, and then it was a couple of turns in, and I sat back and I went, "Wow, I'm pretty screwed." Like I didn't stand a chance because of her goggles, Moro, the precision, all that stuff. He was just, yeah, it was slaughter.
Well, besides the obvious Spike cards, I think the Great One looks pretty cool with his new cards.
Oh
Oh yeah,
yeah, it worked.
new lease
Yeah.
on life for him.
I
I mean,
like the new Legends getting stuff.
I'm scrolling. I'm scrolling through to try to just to remind myself because so many got spoiled. But even Ricky Steamboat. The Ricky Steamboat cards are awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was
Steamboat
cool
I
to see
had
him
in
get some love.
Steamboat I had when we were still playing cards. And
Hmm.
Steamboat, if there's a category that is just fun,
Yeah,
Steamboat was like top of the category. Like this is a fun deck. It's fast paced. It's not gonna necessarily win all the time, but it was
no,
an entertaining game. All the Steamboat games were entertaining.
and it's very thematic to how Steamboat was, which I'm a huge
Mhm.
fan of. Like, what good, bad, or indifferent, it's great to see that a design is very reflective of their gimmick, their character, their work, in real life.
I am excited for the Nature Boy card too, Chop, because Nature Boy is definitely one of the superstars that I look at, and it's just like I have no clue what maneuver base to put in this person at all. Like nothing fits the mold for him,
Bl-
and having all
Blind.
those chops is gonna be great. Blindside, yeah, Flair too. Blindside, Hell in a Cell, Blindside with Ric Flair. It just never
Oh,
works for me.
I wasn't even talking about Cell. I was just straight blindside because he could back fan favorite. Like that's the first thing that comes to mind
Right.
whenever someone can do fan favorite. Like, oh, I can hook and aggression.
Hmm.
Nice.
Yeah. Very fair. Very fair.
I forget. Does 16-time heavyweight champion have does it have damage? Like, does it give you fortitude, or is it 16-0? I
No.
can't remember.
16-0. 0-0 if you discard a chop.
Yep.
Well, yeah, just that you get to if your chop's unsuccessful and you're 5 or lower fortitude, you get to just search for one and put it in your ring. But
Right.
again,
So
there are a
it,
lot of
it
things I've
makes
looked
your chops -4 fortitude and +4 damage, if I remember correctly.
at. Okay,
Something like that. Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
I had not looked for the
Make
card. Looked at the card in a
make
while.
chops great again, man. Make Woo great again. Back when this card when Flair first came out, I didn't even care about like how gross his ability was. It was the fact that I won so many games with playing Woo and just chops. It was the greatest thing
I,
ever. And I was just chop, 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 chop. It was the greatest thing ever. Ric Flair is my favorite wrestler of all time, and any support for him is I appreciate.
So, Brian, one more question on the a lot of the set release, but what most of the sets there's definitely been a theme. There's been a theme, but this seems to have just stuff for everybody. Is there a theme around this, or is this just there was a major overhaul and looking at who could use support and who's new? I don't know if you have any insight on that.
I mean, it's a little bit of both. On the one hand, we mentioned earlier the focus on move from game or, you know, handling sponge. That's kind of the finish the story thing. Like that kind of plays
Hmm.
into that. But on the other hand, we looked at all these people that had all these problems and went, we should fix that, even if it doesn't fit the theme.
Okay.
Such the beauty of a virtual card game where you can just be like, we need to fix these guys. We're just going to release a couple cards, and there they are.
We don't have to worry about selling packs. It's great.
I love the ability to course correct at any given time.
The more I look back, the more I realize how many cards you guys spoiled already. It's just
Do you not know how to check the pins, George, and just see the pins?
no, it's not as fun
He
that
doesn't
way.
look at the rules or the pin.
No, it truly is not as fun that way. You're scroll back,
No,
you look at the history, the order it came out.
Oh yeah.
That's
They
what I'm doing right now.
When did
and
we?
I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot they shared that.
Didn't you start spoiling in? I think it was at WrestleMania, wasn't it? March with the finish the story Cody Rhodes card, I believe, or
Might have been.
the American Nightmares reversal. You've been spoiling cards slowly for a while. And I think Hog said last time is by the end of the year the set should be out.
More or less.
Something like that, or at least know most of it by
look,
the end of the year.
It's 2 weeks away from the end of the year. I still got stuff to do, but we don't plan on leaving people hanging. As soon as
It
we
looks
can
like
get
it
it
was
out.
August when I see the original message.
August, okay.
Yeah, 8/22, I think. But that might have also been when it was pinned, so I'm not sure.
And the plan is have revisions before Worlds too, I believe, is what.
Yeah, I would not be supportive of not doing revisions. We'd have 16 genders.
There were a lot of cards that haven't been.
Well, at
pinned
least
that
only
must
one
not
could
been.
make top cut, right? I lost out with the Visionary last year. A far superior player than I went also as Visionary. So, yeah.
We know Luke's either going to be Los Guerreros or Hurricane for next Worlds. It's already kind of figured out, isn't it?
No, it depends how much I can play.
Oh, that's true.
Dude, if I went back as Los Guerreros again, I don't know, man. I'm gonna have the same results, right?
I don't know. Somebody goes to the Los Guerreros well every year, so
Hey,
why
man,
not?
that card pool is great, especially for someone who doesn't play a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends. If I can play a lot, I'll just play someone that I enjoy. LA Knight or Hurricane or whatever. Someone who I'm a fan of. That will be fun. At least get some games in. It's got to be some good stuff coming for LA Knight. I mean, he's a 3/3, and we've only gotten a few cards, so you don't give someone a 3/3 if they're ass.
Yeah, Knight's tested fine so far. Let me see what was spoiled.
I think we have his superstar card, his finisher, a backstage, and then the pre-match. It looks like.
Well, that could be it. Usually, the first round of these guys, they don't get a lot. It's only a few cards.
Usually
Yeah.
the full virtual get 8 cards, and the TNF guys only get a few because it's a much smaller set.
Yeah, this is not a TNF set. It's going to be a full set. So
I like that LA Knight does a lot of things that I wouldn't normally do, which will help me, like Anthony was talking about before, try something different, push outside my comfort zone, and give me something new to bite into, really tackle, and it's thematic to who he is on TV, and it's something that'll get me excited because I'm drawn in by certain superstars, not necessarily by certain archetypes, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. Especially when I first dove back into Raw Deal and got involved in virtual, it was things like Charlotte Flair, New Day. They both happen to be good superstars. Charlotte, great, but I was immediately drawn to them and then learned that they were, so capable at what they do.
I was so mad when we went virtual, and it was frowned upon for me to use Charlotte because she was tier 1, and I'm like, come on, guys, I just want to use her. I like her.
Yeah, but that's the fun with the Raw Deal is you can play the people you like.
Right. And bring them to the table, and I think that's the huge draw of virtual. Beyond the fact that the community is what keeps it alive, and trying new things and diving into new archetypes, and then still having things released to look forward to shift the meta, to give you something new to do. It's everybody's current. Like, if I want to play as Mandy Rose, I can do that. If I'm a simp for Liv Morgan, I can play Liv Morgan. If I want to wear LA Knight merch and just talk to you instead of playing games, I can do that. Like, for me, that's one of the big draws of maintaining some sort of involvement in virtual is that, you know, I can mark out in another way, and that's big for me.
Now
I
you
think a
talk.
lot of the base now, like a lot of the people that I know of that were looking at this as a card game more than a wrestling card game, I think most of those people have kind of moved on.
Right.
There are some I'm sure that I'm not thinking about, but I'm thinking like the John Pulverinos of the world. You know, John was a wrestling fan, but he was a card game guy. Like
Yeah.
Right.
he's no longer with Raw Deal, but you know, like I think the people who are still here are also big wrestling fans, and they just want to play the people that they like for the most part.
You have to, because Raw Deal is so complicated, and it's not a perfect game. It
Hmm.
it's just by its nature, you know, for how long it's been around. And Raw Deal English is always a common term, but you know, if you're just into card games and you're not really that much of a wrestling fan, it won't retain you. But if you're a wrestling fan who happens to play card games, even if it's not well, you're going to stick around and still enjoy the game and get some kind of satisfaction out of it.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's in person or online.
And then you talk about getting out of your comfort zone. That's one of the cool things about like the wheel tournaments too. Like
Yeah.
3 decks, and
Hmm.
you got to build them, and it's sometimes you get 3 people. I've never wanted to play these. Now I got to play one, and you play it, and you're like, well, this is kind of fun, you know.
Right.
I like the wheel for the yes, for that exact reason. It forces me to build people that I wouldn't typically build. And it's and to what Luke was saying, I don't watch modern wrestling. So I gravitate to the older wrestlers that I watched when I was younger. And that
Right.
tends to be my theme, whether it was, the classic people from, pre me, but you know who they were, Slaughters, Iron Sheiks, etc. Or, the true Attitude Era people, which was, the era that I watched. And it's definitely who I, the superstars that I gravitate more. And then the wheel tournament, gets me Ezekiel Jackson and Rhea Ripley. And I know you could say everything you want about Rhea, Anthony, but I would have never built her if I never spun her,
Right.
because she's definitely not on my top of my list in terms of
I don't have the time to get into your stupid comments. It's too
She might
late
not
at
be on the
night
top
to
of your
argue with
list,
you
but mommy's always
about
on top.
mommy. Yep. It's too late at night to argue with George.
those are the slogans we get. Yeah.
All I know is someone asked in the Facebook group last week, like, what you're thankful for about Raw Deal for the year. And I wanted to be like, I'm thankful I got to see what a real relationship is between Anthony and George, so I know how they've been married for so long.
Yeah, that's Kevin Courtney that probably asked that.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
He constantly leads great discussions. I want to give Kevin a great shout out. He's someone that I've talked to here and there, and someone I've met in person and played in person. And Kevin does a lot for the community. He's also very involved, and he is a person that constantly is trying to bring positivity and discourse and discussion and bringing the community together. And I think that people like him, not just him, but people like him are invaluable. You know, from the dev team to people who are involved, people who speak highly. Just people like that make the community what it is. I want to
Yeah.
give Kevin a
Yeah,
shout out.
just sacrificing his time and energy into, it's a thankless, like, they do it because they enjoy it as well, right? Like the
Hmm.
dev team too, like they want to see the game continue, they want more people playing it, they want to play it themselves, they're fans, so if they can create people, of course they want to create who they like also.
Right.
But it's still like time consuming, and it's, end of the day, thankless, unless, I mean, we think, sometimes like, oh, thanks for this last outlaw card, maybe it's playable now. But yeah.
So
No,
yeah, go ahead, Luke.
no, I have nothing important.
I was gonna say, yeah, based on like Kevin Courtney and his drafts that he does in Richmond, we've been working on trying to prototype a way we can do these drafts through Octagon. So a sealed type event, which we've drawn a lot from what
Hmm.
Kevin has done. It's not anywhere near ready to go yet, but something we're looking
I
at trying to
I
run.
have I have a whole new appreciation for how he builds packs for this virtual stuff just by looking at how to do this for like a 1-8 person pod. Like,
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, I was going to say that the time, the energy, the creativity, the attention to detail that takes to build your own packs, the money that it takes to invest in getting things printed and sorting them out and then making sure there's balance. It goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, is what can you do to get people involved and kind of reward them in different ways with different themes. I've tried to pick his brain a little bit, but huge shout out to him, man, for even attempting to do that, let alone being so successful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You want a kicker to that too? He's got twin boys, twin 6-year-olds. I think he said.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah, coming from a guy who actually shared the wrestling ring with Swerve Strickland at one point in his life,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty dope to me. I think it's really cool.
He's a
Another
wrestler,
conversation.
George. I know you don't know, but he's a wrestler.
I have no idea who it is.
Swerve's great. He's former North American champion in NXT, former AEW World Champion.
That means nothing to him.
He's
if you're not talking eggs, you're not talking.
I know what AEW is. I know what AEW
Yeah.
is.
We're not discussing eggs in this.
Swerve had a great year this year. That's all I will say. He's had a breakout year this year. And by all accounts, is a great guy. But Kevin knew him years ago from that South Virginia circuit where Swerve spent a lot of time. I saw Swerve comment on his Facebook one day, and it reminded me that we had that conversation in person, Kevin and I, about wrestling and, my half a cup of coffee and his time in Macon Towns.
Are you sure that's not Xavier Woods with a new name? I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
It's not Consequences Creed, George.
I'm just kidding. I did have to Google to see who it was. So
Yeah.
We know.
No, it's not.
Joe, do you watch wrestling? No, Joe, do you watch wrestling?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I have Peacock just so I can watch the pay-per-views.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't mind being the outlier.
Well, you have Netflix, so you can start.
I don't watch Raw or SmackDown every week, but I read the notes about, like, Bleacher Report does the grades or whatever about the shows, and I read those after every episode just to see what's going on.
The recaps and stuff.
Yeah.
Same. I have Peacock and I've seen some of the events and I follow. It's Still Real to Us. It's Still Real to Us, I think, is the Facebook page. So
yep.
Keep up with it to some degree, but definitely not nearly as much as I did probably 4 or 5 years ago.
You just don't have the time to sit and dedicate to sit and watch all this.
There's so much to consume now, more than ever. I mean, the wrestling business, for what it's worth, is as hot, if not hotter, than we may remember it. There's so much to consume. There's so much media. There's so many opportunities for these guys and girls.
And all that means is more Raw Deal.
For sure. And I think we can all agree that even if it's a love-hate relationship, we're definitely going to keep being gluttons for punishment.
Well, I think that's a good spot to stop tonight, guys. Well, I appreciate Anthony jumping in here, halfway through, and Luke taking the time to come chat with us about Raw Deal.
No, I appreciate the invite very much. I appreciate you guys considering bringing me on and having me involved. It's an honor to be a part of it and to kind of share a little bit and chop it up with you guys. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thanks for making some time in your ever so busy schedule for us, to...
I am not a prima donna, I promise.
Semester's over, man.
Yeah, I got to get this tuss over with. I'll go subject myself to pain. I'll play Anthony sometime this week.
Luke had time. He could have played Raw Deal today, but he didn't.
He's got a pack for Aruba or wherever he's going.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm leaving in a couple
Joe
weeks.
messaged me. He's like, hey, you around? I was like, no, man, I'm playing, man. But no, thanks for the invite as well.
Luke and I live no more than 40 minutes apart from each other, and I have not seen him in Lord knows how long. So
At least 6 months.
Yeah.
I think the last event that you came to when you waxed everybody. There's a common theme there too.
was that the Undertaker? Was that the Undertaker tournament? I don't remember.
I believe so. Yeah. If not, it was the Heenan one. It was one of the two.
Oh, it was Heenan.
Yeah, because I played Vader.
All right.
All right, guys. We'll get together again here in a little bit.
Happy New
and
Year.
Probably
Yeah.
after the end of the year, and we'll hopefully have a whole set to talk about at that point.
And
I
Joe,
think we will.
Thanks for everything, and thanks for putting these together. These conversations are always great. So thanks for continuing to host these for us.
Yeah, you're
Hey,
welcome. I enjoy it.
Yeah. All right.
All right,
Have a good
take
night,
care,
guys.
guys.
Night.
Yep.